In today's video, we're going to be talking all about solar. Is it worth it or is it not? We recently just had a solar array installed by a third party, as well as you can see the Tesla Powerwall 3. I'm really stoked to have this system. We've had it up and running for the past several months. So I want to just walk you through this whole process from start to finish and show you the results of our brand new solar system that we just had installed. This video is brought to you by Mr. Cool, America's #1 choice for quality, affordable DIY HVAC equipment. So as you can see, this is what it looks like before anything was touched here. We did have to upgrade our panel to support additional breakers because adding solar requires that you add a 2-pole breaker just for the solar array. So if you don't have that, you can probably compact some of those breakers by using the smaller ones to get a little bit of additional room. But in my instance, I wanted to upgrade this anyway, so we went ahead and did a new panel, and this is before we installed anything. Now, we used a company here in Utah called SmartWave Solar. If you're in Utah, I highly recommend this company. They did a really awesome job and were great about communicating what all they were doing. So the first part of this whole process is basically just getting information, collecting bids from different companies. And the reason why we went with SmartWave Solar was because, one, they did a great job in communicating the type of system. They were very specific about the type of panels, the inverter, as well as the power backup. So before we get into my particular install here, I want to just talk about the federal tax incentives that are involved with a solar system and a battery backup. Now, first of all, there is a 30% tax credit on your system, which is a high incentive for getting solar. So if you have a high energy bill or you're just looking to invest in your home and make it to where it's more sustainable and prepared in the event of an emergency, that's more of the route we went. Here in Utah, we pay 12 cents a kilowatt, but in other places like California and Hawaii and some places on the East Coast, they pay up to 40 and 50 cents per kilowatt. So huge difference there. But that being said, a 30% tax credit is huge. So say for instance, your total bill is $30,000. Next year on your taxes, you can apply for that and get about $10,000 back, making the total only about $20,000. That was the case for us, which is way less than what I thought it was going to be, especially with the battery backup. Now, with that being said, there's also rebates for battery backups. So for us, they had a $4,500 rebate if you purchased a certain battery, and the power company would have access to that battery for the first 2 years of having it. That was the incentive for installing that and giving you that rebate. However, Tesla, as of when I bought this system, did not buy into that. I think they're really smart in that they're not buying into this because they want the consumer, the person who is buying that battery, to have the full life of that battery, not giving away that energy and significantly reducing the life of the battery. And what ended up happening for me, which you can also try and do this yourself, is I was kind of on the fence about the battery backup, and so they ended up matching this rebate on the Tesla. Even though this is fully mine, I don't have to sign anything saying I can give power to the power company for the first 2 years. I own this battery backup outright, and I still was able to get that $4,500 discount. So they have some leeway. They can work with you on discounting the labor to make up for that rebate, and that's what happened for me. So I highly recommend trying to go that route and seeing what you can work out. Now, I want to talk about timing here. So we were like very early spring when these companies were pretty slow. In the middle of summer, when it's starting to get warm, they are just hopping. They're installing solar left and right. So in the wintertime, before it gets to that huge spike in installs, that's probably the time to try and negotiate a deal and to secure it. Not to mention, there's a pretty good size waiting game. When you sign the contract or agreement with that solar company, there's going to be some waiting involved when they're getting the permitting, the engineering to make sure that everything is up to code and everything. It took us about a month and a half to get all of that sorted out before they were actually able to install the system. Okay, so in terms of the whole process from start to finish, so we called them out, we got the bids, we said, okay, we want to use you guys, and they had several different options. The two primary ones were you could get financing through a third party, or the second option, which is what we opted for, is you could do 4 equal payments. So you didn't have to pay it all at once. You did the first payment and then they would get the permitting, the engineering started, getting the ball rolling, and that gave us a little bit of time to recoup and get ready for that second payment. Once the second payment was done, I believe they actually did the install. So they first came and installed our solar panels. That was the very first thing, and then they had a separate team come and install the battery backup, and then the last step was changing the meter out to a net metering one. So the other meter did not know whether it was receiving power or sending power. whereas this net metering, it took about 15 minutes for them to swap it over, and then it would realize that if we were sending power back, we would get credited for that, or if we were taking energy, we would be charged for that. So let's show you what the actual setup looks like in detail so you can just kind of get an idea and make an informed decision on what route you want to go. All right, so this right here is our main panel, and that's the net metering, and we'll show you right here. As you can see, this arrow that points to the left, that'll pop up in just a minute. That means that we are sending power back to the grid currently. If we were using power and receiving power from the grid, there's another little arrow that would show up on the right, and that's how you know that. So we have all of our labeling here on the panel. And then I'll show you the actual solar. So it's labeled right here. This is our 50 amp solar breaker that's dedicated for that. And then we also have additional slots here should we want to add anything else in the future. And then this is the Tesla Powerwall 3. As you can see, it's very compact. It's probably only 8 inches off of the wall. Really clean install. They did a junction box here, and then this was just here when they put in the solar. And then the electricians that came in to put the Powerwall 3 installed this conduit and this conduit to here. So something similar I'm sure will happen if you end up getting solar at your place. So very quiet. Occasionally when this is charging, there is some fans in here that you'll hear. And even though this is close to our patio, it's not obnoxiously loud, very comfortable. And should we ever want to install another one of these, we have room up here or down here. And this is a 13 kilowatt hour battery, so this lasts quite some time. I have yet to do the off-grid mode, but we'll show you the actual Tesla app. It's really nice to be able to see what energy you're using, what's coming in, and all of that. Now up here on the roof, you can see all of our panels here. We have 14 panels. This is on the west side, and supposedly putting the most panels on the west side is when you're going to get the most energy. So that's why they put more on this side. They also installed critter guard because you don't want birds and stuff building a nest under there. There's actually a feather there, so it's obviously working. And then you do have to have some sort of fire. In case there is a fire, they have to be able to walk on this edge, so they can only go up so many feet that way. Now let me show you the other side. We're actually in the process of doing a ceiling cassette system. We just got this set a couple days ago. Really excited because we're going to be moving this unit out of the way. That will be all free and open. Really excited about that. But anyways, solar power comes in. We have a nice boot here, and then we have these risers, and it goes in the attic there. And then it comes up somewhere under these panels on the east side. And as you can see, we only have 5 panels on this side, but should we want to add some more, we can add them here. Now, one thing I want to talk about while we're on this subject is you don't want to just throw the max amount of panels up on your roof, because you will significantly be overproducing, and every single year that resets. You cannot build up credits and use them later on. They reset it every year. Pretty sure that's across the board, but I know that's Rocky Mountain Power here in Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, areas like that. But look into that and make sure, because you don't want to have so many panels that you're just significantly overproducing. You want to just be over what you have produced on average. So it's also good to know what you've been producing for the past year or two on average, just to make an informed decision on what type of array or what size array you need. And I'll show you inside the attic. Really, the only thing here is we have some conduit coming through from the west side to the east side. And then this is where our old swamp cooler used to be, but it just goes through conduit out to the exterior there. So something that I noticed that I wasn't even really expecting, and it was quite a pleasant surprise, was that the attic does not get nearly as hot when the solar panels are up. Now, something else that a lot of people don't realize is this is actually going to make your AC work less hard than it used to. I noticed this instantly the day after we had our solar panel installed, that in the evening when the sun was baking this roof, the AC did not have to work as hard, and it was physically cooler in the house. I regret not doing a more scientific approach to that, but notice the difference here. Right now, this roof temperature is 176 degrees, and notice right here on the other side under this panel, we are 118 degrees. That's almost a 60-degree difference from this to this. Now, if we measure this, surprisingly, this is actually significantly less than the roof. That's pretty surprising being as hot as these get. But it's crazy the difference here. 60-degree difference from this to underneath that. So that's an added bonus to having solar. Not that that should be your deciding factor, but that is going to help your AC to run less hard, because the attic is not going to be nearly as hot as it would be had there not been any solar panels on the roof. Now, one other thing I want to talk about just for a second is home value. A lot of people are curious how much value this adds to your home, and statistically it's about 4 to 5% of whatever your home value is. So for instance, if you have a $400,000 home, that would be $20,000 would be 5%. So it basically equals in terms of value and how much you spent. So in my mind, this was a no-brainer. Even though our electricity is not crazy expensive here in Utah, I heard that this year there's actually going to be a pretty big hike in electricity. So I think this was a really wise decision, and I'm super thrilled to have it. So right now, let's check out the Tesla app and show you some of the features on that. Okay, so as you can see right here, this is the Tesla app while I'm viewing it on my phone. We're getting 4.7 kilowatts of power coming in through the panels. As you can see, it's 12:45. Our peak is typically around 2 to 3 o'clock. We'll get about 6.5 kilowatts of energy because it's dispersed on the west and east side. It's not all facing south. That's another thing to take into consideration. If you're all facing south, that's a huge advantage. Now, as you can see, the home is requiring 3.2 kilowatts. So we have 1.9 kilowatts currently feeding back to the grid, which we're getting credits for, and they give us 5 cents per kilowatt hour for that. As you can see here, that's our sell price, and then our buy price is 12 cents per kilowatt. Now, if we go here to energy, this will show how much is exported and how much is imported. But what's interesting is under imported, it doesn't show what of that is from your power bank. So what this will do is overnight, it will use energy from the power bank, and then in the morning, as soon as the sun comes up, it will recharge via solar, and you can really reduce your energy bill by that. You can also set this more so to, if you want to be self-sufficient, it won't use this energy, and that way if the energy goes out at any given point, it's guaranteed to be fully charged. So if we go here to a past day, let's say the 29th, we'll hit accept. It looks like we exported 12 kilowatt hours and imported 12 kilowatt hours. So we were pretty equal there. If we go to another day, let's say the 26th, we exported 16.9, 19.8. So it's dependent on how much you're using that given day and what the sun exposure is, but it gives you an idea of how this app works, and it's really cool to see this in action. Now, if we go to impact, this also shows what percentage was used by grid, what percentage was used by the power wall, and what was used by solar. And it also shows you the value, estimated value of that energy when you're selling it back at a certain rate. For me, it's 5 cents per kilowatt hour. And then down here, we also see our solar offset. Our home was requiring 1,500 kilowatt hours. We produced 1,200, so pretty close to offsetting that. We did add a mini split to our garage, and we've been running that like every single day. But once we get to the months where we're not running it as often, this is really going to overproduce, and we're gonna have those credits to fall back on days where it's really cloudy in the wintertime when we're not getting as much solar. You can also set this to off-grid if you want to just kind of see how long this system will work. There's a go off-grid option here, and we could do that if we wanted to. I did it the other day just to kind of experiment with it, and it's a pretty cool feature to have. Now, if you go under here to settings, you can select what your backup reserve is, and if you want to be more self-sufficient or if you want to save energy, you can adjust this depending on how you want it. Now, one thing to note is as soon as they put this net meter in, you have to go in here and hit yes to allow permission to export. I also had to call the power company and tell them because it wasn't exporting. This is something actually that's very critical that I was really confused about, and it was that if we went back to here, while this was generating power, for instance, right now it would say 3 kilowatts are being used by the home, and the solar would actually match that, and it would say 3 kilowatts of solar, even though I knew our solar system could produce more energy than 3 kilowatts. So as soon as I called Rocky Mountain Power, or if you call your electric company and tell them, yes, we have permission to export, then the next day I noticed that this was larger than what the house was consuming, and then we're backfeeding. Now, the purpose of this is that this Tesla is very smart, and it knows that unless you have a net meter device right here, the meter does not know if you're exporting or if you're pulling power. If it thinks you're exporting, it's going to be charging you for that power. So Tesla is really smart in that they match whatever the power is requesting, and not over what it's requesting, and that's going to save you from potentially having a huge bill that first month before you have permission to export. So just a couple of things that I learned in my this whole process of getting solar, and hopefully it's beneficial for you. Well guys, there's definitely a lot of things to take into consideration when it comes to whether or not solar is a good idea. Again, I didn't purposely do this because we're paying outrageous amounts on our electric bill. For instance, our normal average monthly bill was $100 a month, so really low in comparison to some of the other states where electricity is a lot higher. But there's a lot of different factors and a lot of different motivating things that pushed me to buy solar, and I hope this video has helped you to get an idea of what some of those incentives are and reasons for potentially getting solar. Now, if you're interested in seeing a fully solar powered mini split that also will automatically transfer to grid power as it's needed, check out this video right here, and I'm sure you'll find it fascinating. Airspool has really outdone themselves with this product, and I think you'll find it fascinating. Until next time, you guys be safe. Later.